Hello, welcome to Critical Conversations, doing that famous mic check. Okay, hey y'all, how you doing? I'm really excited. I'm your host, Karissa Dean. Today's conversation is hopefully going to be one that will super inspire you, especially those of you who have been going through a hard time. Sorry, I'm just fiddling around trying to find how I want to sit because I'm really fired up about this topic. It's something that is near and dear to my heart. It's something that I have been struggling, going through, learning about, deep diving, trying to identify, trying to understand for myself, so that I could speak to it, so that I could be the support for those who aren't yet there or are coming there and are kind of confused and looking for how do I get through this? So what is that topic, y'all? It's how to be a boss fucking bitch when life gives you no's. And what do I mean by that? I mean, how do you stay steadfast and determined to create the thing that you want, the dream that you have, whether that's a relationship, a business proposition, a dream job, better relationship with your kid, with your partner, with yourself. Maybe you don't have a partner and you're ready to start dating again. How do you build that muscle of resilience and stay so connected to, no, this is what I want, without settling, without feeling like you're giving it all away, without feeling like you're trying to fit into somewhere you don't belong, without giving up? How do you do this? And it's fucking hard. We'll start there. It's fucking hard. I think that, one of the hardest things as an entrepreneur is not giving up, is being resilient, is having the tenacity to keep going when all the emails back you get are no, when all the advice you get is, why would you do it like that? When your parents don't understand it, when your partner doesn't understand it, when your kid is, begging for your attention, but you know that you just have to get out one more email or do that one more task before you can really shut it down for the day. But I also think that it's, how do you have this equal resilience if you're trying to find the perfect partner? You're looking for love. How do you not give up? How do you not bend and be like, well, I guess this is good enough? How do you really build resilience in all areas of your life so that you don't feel like you're losing part of yourself for X, Y, or Z? And so I want to start with a couple stories. The first one is, I was listening to a podcast not that long ago, and it was a business podcast. If you know me, I'm obsessed with business. I always want to learn. And it was an episode that was all around why Mormons are so successful as entrepreneurs. And I was super interested in this podcast, and I wanted to understand the theory behind it. And it fucking blew my mind. And the reality is that the reason Mormons are very successful as entrepreneurs is because most of them grew up in the Mormon church, and they were sent off at 18 or whatever it is. They're sent off to do their missions, right? They get the Book of Latter-day, or no, it's not Book of, maybe it is, it the Book of Latter-day Saints? I'm not sure. You guys don't quote me on the religious stuff. I do my best. I'm all inclusive here. I really don't care what you believe. I think we're all just trying to hold on to faith in the world, and religion does that for a lot of people. But anyways, they go with their books, right, and their bike and their little name badge, and that's it. They're set off with a backpack and a bike, and they go for a year or two, right? And they knock on doors. They're going door to door, and they're saying, can we have a conversation with you? And 90% of the doors slam in their face. They're learning from a very young age to be resilient, to have tenacity, to hear no and go to the next house anyways. There's no giving up. They're just doing what they're doing. They're believing in their faith. They're trying to share their thing with someone else, with someone new. And they don't take the no to heart. They're like, okay, have a great day. On to the next, on to the next, on to the next. So the reason so many Mormons are good entrepreneurs is because they have this huge muscle they've flexed around hearing no, around being, slammed in the face, to being judged, being, whatever you want to say. They're so used to hearing no that by the time they are done with their mission, they are settling back into what am I doing with my life? They're excited to be entrepreneurs, and they really don't care what other people think, and they just believe in themselves, and they just keep asking questions, and they keep knocking on doors. And it's so interesting to me. I was talking with Nigel about this because I was like, dude, that's you. I was like, that's why you're such a successful entrepreneur, and that is why I have struggled. Because when Nigel was a kid, there was no cell phones really. Maybe there was like the Nokia, but like cell phones were kind of new, pagers were new, like people still had like their landlines, right? And for those of you listening and you don't know what a landline is, before there was this device, there was a cord that came in from a power pole to the house and attached in the wall, and that is how you communicated with people. And so people still had landlines, and he knocked on doors to sell wreaths, knocked on doors to sell firewood. And he wouldn't quit. He basically, what he would do is he would go after school, or maybe he would skip school, and he would go fill his truck with firewood, and then he'd drive to a neighborhood that was a nice, wealthy neighborhood, and he'd sell firewood. And he would quit when his truck was empty, and he would have cash, and he would go live his best fucking life. So from a very young age, Nigel learned that same resiliency of like, fuck you, I'm just trying to sell firewood. Like, whatever. Okay, bye. Like, on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. And so we were laughing and talking about this, and I was like, this is why I feel like as an entrepreneur right now, especially because of the online space, it's so hard to feel like you're gaining traction, because instead of like knocking on 100 doors and one person saying yes, you're trying to break through an algorithm. You're trying to break through multiple, like, let's just say you use social media, which there are billions of people on social media. So you're like one voice against a billion. And then you also have like emails. You're one email in an inbox that's probably getting hundreds of emails in spam a day. And it's so hard to break into these new forms of marketing and sales because there's so many barriers against us, right? And if you were to go door to door right now, you would be met with a lot of resistance. Like, it's just not something we do a whole lot of. And it's not the way that our society currently operates. And so being an entrepreneur, starting a business right now, especially in the online space, you are really, really having to lift extra hard. It's extra heavy to build that muscle of resilience, to gain tenacity. And so it's this constant battle for me. I mean, it used to be this constant battle. I should say that I've really come a very long way. But, when I remember when I first broke into the coaching space 5 years ago, and I was like, I'm going to do this. I love this, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to make money. I'm going to like do work I love. I'm not going to drive dump trucks anymore. Like, I'm not going to do construction anymore. Like, I'm out of that career. I'm like, I don't want to teach anymore. Like, I want to just do this. But it was like, I sat down and I was one voice against a billion. And so it's like, how do I remain relevant? How do I get people to trust me? How do I get people to say yes to Karissa versus somebody else? And it takes so much time and energy and effort. And the one block that continuously got in my way is being really excited about something, being like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to sell it, and then no one buys. It's a total flop. And then you take some time off and you reevaluate, okay, am I still going to do this? Do I love this? Like, why the fuck am I doing this? Like, okay, like, what else could I do? Well, no. All right. This is it. I'm going to do it. Like, I cannot tell you how many times I've having to give myself that pep talk of like, why am I doing this? Do I still want to do this? Does this make sense? Do I have enough resilience, tenacity, and, motivation to keep trying to do this? Am I forcing this? Like, there have been so many times where I sit down and I meditate and I'm like, am I supposed to do this? And it's that flip-flop in your mind that fucks you up. It's your lack of the muscle of resilience that fucks you up. Because let's face it, you are doing what you're doing right now because you chose it. Some of you chose it because it was a simple, easy thing to do. Some of you chose it because that's what your mom or dad did, or your grandparent, because it's a trade that you love, because you thought it would be, a simple thing, because whatever. Insert why you're doing what you're doing. I'm doing what I'm doing because I woke up, fucking changed my life, and decided other people need to have the same support that I got. And I can teach this. And it's the first time where I really was motivated about something. It felt like this is your purpose. It felt like, yep, this is why Karissa was brought onto this earth, was to do this work and to speak truth and to be the voice and to trailblaze differently in an industry that has a shit ton of smoke and mirrors in it, in an industry that is full of pretty shiny things. And there I am, sitting there trying to scream into the void and say, work with me, because I'm not selling shiny bullshit. I'm selling your transformation. But the thing about that sale, and Nigel and I talk about this all the time, the thing about that sale is it is the toughest sale, because who the fuck wants to pay to do trauma work? Who the fuck wants to pay for me to be like, your mindset's ass backwards and we got to work on it? Who wants to pay for that? Like, I didn't until I understood that I could change the way I felt by doing the work. And the moment I realized I could change, I could choose change, I was addicted. I was hooked. I was reading all the books. I was taking the certifications. I was getting the classes. But the thing about this industry is that there's so much smoke and mirrors. There are so many people out there who are preaching one thing and living another. And that's not me. I am who I am. You walk into my basement right now, which is where my office is. I'm going to be the same version when I go have dinner with my family, when I go out to the movies, when I go horseback riding with my best friend, when I'm driving Ruby around. Like, I am who I am. I am who I am at the airport, when I'm about ready to take a flight, when my Uber gets canceled and I'm delayed. Like, I am who I am. I'm not trying to pretend to be somebody I'm not. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it and tell you that it's so beautiful all the fucking time. Because guess what? It's not. It's actually been really hard to be an entrepreneur in this space. And I've talked about being an entrepreneur in other spaces before. I've talked about the blocks that I've worked through in this business. I've talked about why my property management business is just over there thriving, because there was never any blocks. It was just, I just always believed in it. But this industry has taught me that my muscle of resilience has to be bigger, and my belief in my work has to be bigger than anything else. And if I'm not capable of having a tougher skin, a thicker skin, and a bigger muscle of resilience, I will fail. And this, going back to the podcast about the Mormons, they brought in the topic of, I wish I could remember what it was, but I listened to so many that it's hard for me. So I do apologize. It is a podcast. It's a business podcast. It's a couple guys, a British guy. Anyways, I wish I could find it. Maybe I'll be able to think of it and put it in the show notes. But their point was, this is why so many entrepreneurs fail, is because they have not spent enough time really dedicating to themselves to being resilient, to keep trying. Instead, they send 10 emails or they do one social media post. They don't get the results they want. And then they're totally bogged down. They don't think it's ever going to work. And they're like, I'm a failure. And so they quit. It takes resilience, determination, the tenacity, like the deep rooted belief of this is the work. This is what I'm meant to do. Like, same thing if you're wanting to create a relationship. If you really believe it, if you believe that you're worthy of it, if you believe that it's possible for you, if you believe it to your core, there's no subconscious blocks, there's no flip-flop in your mind, but you actually hold the belief of this is for me, and there's no doubt, there's no fear, there's no lack, it is coming for you. It is motherfucking on its way. And this is where you just have to trust in the timing. And so that's where I'm at, is I finally debunked all the doubt. I finally debunked the belief that I wasn't worthy of it, or that, it was bad, or that it was too easy, or that it wasn't for me, it was for somebody else, or that I wasn't good enough. I mean, honestly, the biggest one was, am I good enough? Am I good at this? And what kept me grounded was my why, knowing why I'm doing this. And so you build your muscle of resilience the moment you release judgment, the moment you stop comparing yourself to other people, and the moment you really sit down and you get connected to, this is why I'm doing this, and this is what I'm going to create, and I don't fucking care how. I don't care about the timeline. I'm just going to keep doing the aligned action that I know is right for me. And I talked about this in my group hub call this October. I taught this to them. And we talked about how your mind cannot have this flip-flop. If there's any doubt, it's going to be a lot harder. It might work, but it might not be totally sustainable. And or it's going to feel like it was so much that it might not be worth it. And so what I'm talking about is building the ability to be resilient to your dream, to your goal, whatever it is that you're chasing after, building enough resiliency to give no fucks and to be like, bish, I'm so confident. I got this. Like, that is like the vibe right now. I don't care when it happens. I just know it's going to happen. The moment we put the timeline on it, the moment we are holding on to any of those, what most people would call negative, I don't think they're negative. I think they're guideposts. I think they're markers that we get to get curious about and ask, okay, why is this here? And that's what I did. I started to get really curious around, okay, why do I feel like I'm not worthy of this? Why do I feel like this might not work out for me? What is getting in the way? Like, where is this coming from? Is this a childhood trauma belief? Is this a belief because I'm judging and comparing myself to other people? Where is it coming from? The moment I got curious and I went into those spaces and asked those questions and wrote it down, I flipped it. To no, actually, that's not what I want to believe. This is what I want to believe. This is where I want to go. And here's why. Because I have a bigger purpose, because I believe this is my purpose, because I changed my own life. And now I want other people to know at any moment in time, you get to reinvent yourself and you get to start living your dream life. But you have to choose you. You have to choose to do the work. You have to choose to get curious. And you have to build the muscle of resiliency when it gets hard. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's fucking hard. It's not fun work. Again, I'll go back to part of why it's a challenging career to pick is because I'm asking people to pay me to be vulnerable, to pay me to go into their traumas, to pay me to have conversations. I'm going to hold you accountable to the work that you said you wanted to do. If you come to me and you say, I want to build a better business, okay, great. How's your personal life? We got to go there, because your business doesn't get better until you get better. That's the choose you. It's really that simple, but it's not always fun. And it's a tough sale because our brain, our ego is there to protect us. And it protects us by keeping us in known cycles. It keeps us safe by repeating the same behaviors, repeating the same habits, doing the same thing, because our brain and our ego understand those things. We know how to do it. We know how to navigate it. We know how to overcome it because we've done it. We've been there. So when you're entering a new world like coaching or therapy or, working out, diet, exercise, all these different things where you're really saying, I'm going to change, I'm going to do something different, you got to have that muscle of resiliency, because the brain and the ego are going to be like, holy fuck, we've never done this before. This is terrible. It goes into panic mode, and it's like all the alarms are sounding. And then suddenly you're like, oh, right, this is really hard. Actually, I don't actually want to feel better. I actually really don't want to not have diabetes. I'll just deal with diabetes. I know, my mom had it, so my brain understands it. I'll just get diabetes, and I'll just do what my mom did, and I'll take insulin, and I'll go to the doctor more. And yeah, exercise and diet, that would be crazy. I'm not going to do that, because you know how to manage it because you've experienced it. So what I'm saying is, those few people who choose to do the work, build the muscle of resiliency, and say, I want something different that I don't fully understand, but I know is out there because I've seen it for other people. I've read about it. I've dreamed about it. I keep having this gut pinching feeling that I should do this. Very few people will say yes and do the things that they have to do to change the brain and to shut down the ego and experience something different. Very few people are willing to do that because it's not fun. It is work. What's fun, though, is loving waking up, loving your life, loving the work that you're doing, driving to work and saying, I'm so thrilled that this is my life. Driving to the soccer practice, driving to the blind date, driving to the new whatever, buying the plane ticket, do whatever it is, and thinking, man, this is exciting. This is really thrilling because I'm doing something new and I don't know what to expect. And I have no expectations anymore because I'm just so confident that this is the next right thing for me. I trust myself enough to know that changing this one thing today might change my whole life. Choosing yourself, choosing change, one thing, what's it going to be? If you sat down and you actually got curious about how could your life be better, what would be one thing that you could do that would help you get there? And then you got to write down and understand your why. Why the fuck are you doing this? If you don't have a why, when the external noise starts coming in, the internal won't be able to hold it up, because the ego will get involved, the brain will get involved, and it will be like, external signals are telling us this is dangerous. And you'll quit. And you won't follow through with the change, and you'll forget why you wanted to do the change. And you'll get back on the hamster wheel and you'll keep rolling down. And then a little bit while later, the universe might make it harder for you, and you might go through the path again, and maybe you choose differently, maybe you don't. But that's the question is, I don't think everyone's unhappy in life. That's not what I'm saying. I don't think everyone needs, years and years of therapy or years and years of coaching or to do a complete 180 of their lifestyle. But I do think that there are people who are curious about doing something different, whether that's in their relationship, in their business, other avenues of their life, their spirituality. And instead of sitting with that curiosity, they ignore it. because there's fear of the unknown, because there's fear of failure, because there's, I'm not worthy of that. This is all I was meant for. There's fear somewhere blocking you. I don't have time. I don't have money. I don't have the energy, or I just don't want to, which is fine. Like, I didn't want to wash my hair today. Like, I'm like, I really should. I'm on like day 5. It's super greasy, but like, whatever. I don't want to. Like, but I feel good about that choice. So I guess the question is, do you feel good about your current choices? If you don't, get curious about why don't you feel good? What feels off? You know? And so for me, in building this business, in flexing my muscle, I had to sit down and I had to debunk all the things that were getting in the way. And every time somebody said no to me, or there was a missed opportunity, or I felt like I missed out on something, or, you know, I didn't close a new client this month, or whatever it was, it's like I had to be like, okay, that's okay. That's okay. And I connect back to my why. I pull up my P&L statement and I look at it and I'm like, wow, I'm doing okay. Like, it's, you know, I'm doing okay. It might not be where I want to be, but like, I know it's coming. I'm going to hold on to that. I know it's coming. I know it's happening for me. I did it. I'm doing it. It's still happening. Resilience, tenacity, and being able to hear no 1,000,000 times. And when you hear the first yes, celebrating the shit out of it. Like, there was also a phase, you know, in my entrepreneurial journey where there was like this, it's not enough. Like, you know, and I would be like, I have 5 private clients and, you know, I'm so excited. And I have like 5 people in the hub and, you know, so-and-so and blah, blah, blah. And then like, I would be like, but it's not enough. And I'm like, whoa, I look back on that mindset and I'm like, girl, you are just shooting yourself in the foot. Why can't it be enough? Well, at the time, it wasn't enough because I was trying to get from, you know, a $5,000 month to a $20,000 month. And that gap is just too big, right? It's not sustainable. And so it's like, okay, I'm consistently at this one marker. Can't that be enough? It was enough when I was making 0. So like, this is, you know, this is a whole nother conversation around like being present, accepting where you're at, releasing your expectation and releasing your timeline. I can't tell you guys how many times I've failed. I can't tell you how many hours I have given my services away for free. I've met with people. I've let people come into the hub for free. I've let people join groups for free. I do a bunch of podcasts with people thinking that they're, you know, that it's going to be beneficial for them, never hear from them again. Like, I always overextend myself. And sometimes that is where it gets sticky for me. I feel like I'm giving constantly and then I don't feel like I'm receiving. And what I say to myself now, and what I wish I understood back then, was that's who you are. And if you shy away from who you are and you stop giving because you feel lack for not receiving, that's your own fault because you're not giving enough to yourself. So instead of feeling like, oh, so-and-so didn't sign up with me, or all these people have done all, you know, I've given so much and they didn't sign up with me, or whatever it is, I say, how can I give to myself? How can I fill that gap for myself? How can I take care of myself more? Where, you know, can I look to Nigel and be like, babe, I need to receive. Can we like go on a special date night? Can we go to the beach for the weekend? Like, will you just talk with me? Will you make me a fire? I'm going to get myself a bottle of champagne and have my champagne by the fire, which is my favorite thing to do. And he's going to cook dinner for me. Can I give to myself? Can I take a second and get a 5-second hug from somebody? 8-second hug. Excuse me, it's not 5, it's 8. Can I take myself to yoga? Can I just sit down and be like, wow, I'm going to enjoy all the extra free time and space I have today because I'm not totally booked out with clients. Wow. And it's reinforcing the gratitude for where you're at is huge. It's helpful. Definitely, I will do a podcast about accepting, about presence, about, being here now, because I think that is the sticky, icky place, is especially in the online sales space. It looks like everyone's doing so great, but I'm going to tell you right now, the ones who are out there and they look like they're doing amazing and all they're saying is that they're doing amazing, they're not. They're not. They're just not being honest with themselves. And that's okay. And I don't think everyone needs to be like, I failed. It's not for everyone to publicly share that it's not perfect. And that's okay. But what I want you to know about that is you don't know what their situation is. So just take it with a very fucking tiny grain of salt. Don't make that be the reason you quit. The grass will always be greener if you're always looking for the evidence of it being greener. So if you're always looking at somebody else's life and saying, damn, it must be so perfect for Sally. Ugh, my life is fucking terrible. If you're always looking at that grass and saying theirs is better than mine, you are just creating more resistance for what you actually want, for what you're actually worthy of, and for what you deserve. You got to care more about you and where you're going than everybody else. And when you hear no and you feel like you've overgiven, when you feel like you're burnt out, when you feel like you've done too much for others, that's when you ask yourself, how do I take care of myself? What do I need? How do I fill those gaps? How do I give to myself? Because who you are is a giver. And so I have to, in my little why thing, if I'm doing this because I believe in it, then I also believe that I will get everything I need from it. So I'm not attached to, things always working out for me in the sense of selling out all my programs and being fully booked with clients and da 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 da. It's more about, what's the feeling? Can today be enough? Do I feel good enough right now? Are my bills paid right now? Do I get to live my fullest expression right now? And the answer is yes. And the more that I reinforce right here, right now, damn, life is good. And if it's not, then I get curious about, how can I do it better? What business strategy can I implement? Do I need to have a conversation with Nigel? Do I need to have something happen with me and Ruby? This is where you get curious about did I show up for my business the way that I should have in order to have a successful launch? Am I pigeonholing myself and only showing up on Instagram, or am I email marketing? Am I direct networking? So many things that we could continue to talk about, you guys. I could literally talk to you all day. I don't even know who's listening, but I hope you are enjoying this conversation. And I'm really thankful for you. And I'm thankful for this platform and this ability to share and teach and love and give. And the most beautiful, kind thing you can do for me today is love yourself. Get curious about yourself. Choose yourself in one small form, whether that's not washing your hair, going to bed early, bottle of champagne by the fire, going to meditate right now, journaling, taking yourself to yoga, finding a girlfriend to go to happy hour with, calling up your ex and having a little rendezvous because damn mama just needs an orgasm. I don't care. You do you, boo. You know what you need. Get it. No judgment from me, because what you need is different than what I need. And thanks for not judging me. Or maybe you are. I don't really care. That's a you problem. It's actually only hurting you when you judge somebody else. So yeah, you should work on that. Okay. So much fun. I love this topic. I love this conversation. I really hope that you can practice your muscle of resiliency. If you want support on how to build that muscle, that is the work that I love to do. I love business. I love helping people get business working for them. I love working with my clients on their relationships, their marriages, parenting, all the things, you guys, life, business, and beyond. There's nothing I can't coach on. Nothing. And at the end of the day, I might not be your coach. That's totally cool. But if you want help, you should seek it out. So therapy, coach, psychiatrist, whatever it is, find your people to improve your life. If you enjoyed this conversation, please share it with your bestie. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow my show. Podcasts come out every Thursday, and I'm most active on my Instagram if you want to see what I'm up to day to day. I usually share a little bit every day. Yeah. Excited to continue to be here, busting my booty into year 3, and loving the journey of being an entrepreneur in this coaching space and doing it my unique way. Thanks for following along. We'll see you at the next conversation.